Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to today's social studies lesson. Now, as you can see on your screen, today we are going to be talking about the first inhabitants of Jamaica. Now, look at this picture carefully. Have you ever seen it before? Do you know what it represents? Now, I want for you to make a list of all the things you see in the picture, and I want you to write your comments in the comment section down below. Now, in the diagram is one of Jamaica's national emblems. It is the coat of arms. Now, it shows a male and a female standing on either sides, yes, of a shield with 5 pineapples. Now, the male and the female represent the first indigenous people of Jamaica. Now, you may wonder, what does the word indigenous means? Well, indigenous means originating from a particular area, territory, or a country. Now, the shields represent the flag of Jamaica's European, the motherland, which is England. A crocodile is also seen that is mounted at the top of the royal helmet of the British monarchy. And at the bottom of the coat of arms, you will see the Jamaican national motto, which says, "Out of many, one people." Now let us talk about the first people to come to Jamaica, the Tainos. The Tainos were the first inhabitants of the island Jamaica in recorded history. Now, this means that they, as I said before, are indigenous to Jamaica. And what did I say indigenous mean again? It means they were the first to occupy this land, Jamaica. Now, the Tainos were a part of a group of people called the Amerindians. Now, no one knows exactly when they arrived in Jamaica, but we, however, know that they lived here long before 1494. 1494 is when the first group of Europeans came to Jamaica. Now, this group of Europeans was led by a man named Christopher Columbus. And when they came to Jamaica, they found the Tainos peacefully living on the land. Now, before I get into the details about Christopher Columbus's history, let us talk about how the Tainos arrived, or where did they came from, right? Because we would like to know where these people came from. Now, it is believed that the Tainos came to Jamaica from a place we now call Venezuela. And Venezuela is in the continent of South America. Now, what is a continent? A continent is basically a large landmass, usually divided into several countries. Now, you may wonder what mode of transportation the Tainos used to get to Jamaica, right? And back in those days, they did not have any ships. They didn't have airplane, as what we now have. So I'm here to tell you that the Tainos traveled in canoes from South America to come to the island Jamaica and other Caribbean countries as well. And as you can see on your screen, the arrows are basically showing you the route in which the Tainos take to come from Venezuela to Jamaica and other Caribbean country, for example, Hispaniola and Cuba. Now, what did the Tainos look like? The Tainos were short with medium-built bodies. They had straight, long, coarse black hair. It is also believed that when the Taino babies were born, their mothers shaved their heads between pieces of boards so that their foreheads would be flat, and they called this, or they believed that this was a form of beauty. They also had body paintings, which were usually done for ceremonial events or to protect them from insect bites. The Tainos wore little clothing. The women wore short skirts and they went topless. Now, can you imagine wearing short skirt and going topless in today's society? No, no, no. Now, the men were mostly naked. They decorated themselves in ornamental jewelries made from shells, bones, gold, and other precious materials. Also, a feather in the hair of the woman was also a Taino tradition. Now, let's talk about how the Tainos satisfied their basic needs. Now, I want for you to tell me in the comment section down below what are needs. Now, if you said that needs are food, water, clothes, and shelter, then you are correct. Because needs are the things that you cannot live without. Now, if you said toys, phone, school bag, and television, you are incorrect because those are things you can live without. However, we call those things wants. So needs are things that you cannot live without, while wants are things you can live without. Now, bear in mind that the Tainos worked hard to satisfy their needs. So, they used the materials from their environment to make their clothes and their houses. They engaged in activities such as farming, fishing, and hunting to get food from the land and water. Now, the environment was therefore very important to the Tainos, and without the environment, they would not have been able to satisfy their basic needs for food, clothing, and shelter. Bear in mind also that their villages were located near the rivers, making fishing one of their major activities. Right? And the Tainos, they feasted on over 40 different species of fishes as well as crab and lobster. In addition to that, the Tainos also practiced farming, as I said before, with their main crop being what? What was their main crop? Cassava. Yes, man. Cassava was prepared by the Tainos in many different ways. However, cassava bread was enjoyed most. Let us also make mention of the famous pepper pot soup. Now let's talk about the Tainos houses. Now the Tainos live in villages. These villages were located near the sea or near a river. And these villages were also well organized. Each village had a leader who would report to the Taino chief, also known as the cacique. Now the Taino had two housing styles, however, both styles were made from the same material. Now on your screen is what the general population houses would look like. So it's basically a circular structure made from woven straws and palm leaves. And these houses were called kanai. They were also large enough to accommodate several families, and bear in mind these houses were strongly built to resist any storm or hurricane. Now remember I made mention of the cacique, who is the Taino leader. Well, now in a typical village, the cacique's house is much larger than the other houses. And this house was square or rectangular in shape. The cacique's house was called bohayo, and it was built in front or near the center of the village. The bohayo only accommodated the cacique's family. Now the Tainos houses were decorated with simple furnitures. So they did not have much furnitures or household items. They had things like hammock, clay pot, ceremonial stool, Zemis, which is known as the Tainos god. Now, how did the Tainos enjoy themselves? Now, I want for you to look at this picture, and can you tell me in the comment section what it is that these Tainos are doing? Well, Just like we do, the Tainos also had fun. They enjoyed activities such as singing, dancing, feasting, and playing music. They played musical instruments such as drums and shakers. They smoked tobacco. Tainos had many celebrations and feasts. For example, they celebrated when a cacique got married and during the naming ceremonies of babies. Now look at this picture. Tainos also enjoyed themselves by playing ball games, and they called their ball games Betos. Now Betos was played in an open field, and it was played by two teams which tried to hit a rubber ball with their hips, knees, heads, elbows, and shoulders, and each team was made up of 2 to 10 members. Now the Tainos made their ball from the sap of a tree. The aim of the game was to hit the ball over the goal line of the opposing team. They kept scores similar to how this is done with football. The team with the most points would win. Now, boys and girls, doesn't this game sound similar to what we play at school or even at home? Yes. Now let's talk about the Tainos religious belief. Tainos were religious and believe in many gods and spirits, and their main gods, a male and a female, were represented in the form of a wooden structure called zemis. Now bear in mind that the cacique is responsible for communicating with the gods and spirits at religious ceremonies on behalf of the villagers. And before communicating with the gods and spirits, the cacique would purify himself by smoking a special type of tobacco and vomiting. Like, really? Wow. Now, Tainos believed that when they died, their souls would transcend to Koyaba, their heaven, where they would have eternal peace and rest. Now, how did the Tainos contribute to the Jamaican culture? Now, because they were the first to arrive in our country, they were the first to contribute to the culture of the Caribbean. Now, many of the food they cultivated and ate are still a part of our diet. And for example, the cassava. We use cassava to make bami. And bami is well known in our Jamaican diet, right? Yes. Their method of preparing meat on the barbacoa gave birth to the barbecue and jerk meat, which is not only delicious but healthy. Yes. So as you can see on your screen, we use our little jerk pan, and we normally have a little jerky in our communities, don't it? Yes, man. So they jerk chicken and jerk pork and so on and so forth. And the Tainos were the first to start using that method of cooking. Now, the home of the Taino chief, otherwise known as the cacique, had a frontal structure we now call in the region a veranda. And some or majority of our houses that are being built these days have a veranda, as you can see on the screen, right? Also, the circular house which the general population lived in, if you notice in some places in Jamaica, they still have those circular looking structures. However, they are in areas like recreational parks. For example, if you go to Cassiton Gardens, you will see a structure which we now call gazebo. Or if you go to Devon House or Hope Gardens, you will see a gazebo, and that is another contribution that the Tainos made. Another contribution is the hammock, and bear in mind that the Tainos slept in hammocks, and we use hammock for relaxation, right? So that's another contribution they made. Now this is the end of the video about Tainos. Let me hope and trust that you have learned something and you are able to to share your knowledge with your friends and your family. All right. Remember, like, subscribe, share, and also leave your comments down below. And I will see you in our next video. Stay safe and all the best for the rest of the day.